Hey guys, welcome back to Connor Reads. Today we're going through the 5th installment of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, The Fires of Heaven. Now I enjoyed the last book so much that I decided not to read a different genre of book between the last one and this one because I'm so intoxicated by the story. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So I do want to throw out a spoiler alert. There's going to be spoilers through the entirety of this. If you haven't read up to this point, then pause the video, read, and then come back. We've only really tackled 2 storylines. The first storyline that gets tackled is the White Tower, and then obviously the ex-Amyrlin seat, her bestie, Min, and then Logan as well, the previous false dragon. The other storyline that we've investigated so far is Rand, Matt, Moiraine, Lan, and all of those over there. They're there for the uniting of the Ale at the end of the last book as well. And I really appreciated the prologue of this book. The prologue essentially just shows that the world is in the balance. Everything is very stressful. No one knows exactly what's going to happen next. And I'm going to kick off this conversation, waffle, review, predictions, essentially with the White Tower and that storyline. So as we know from the last book, the coup went really, really well. They managed to expel and steal the previous Amyrlin seat, and now Aleida set herself up as the Amyrlin seat. And in that storyline, I think the first thing we see is a meeting between Aleida and those who managed to put her in power. And the first thing we see is that there's a bit of a power struggle. Aleida doesn't feel like they're listening to her. They feel like, she feels like they think that they did her a big favor putting her in that position. So she's gonna struggle to try and get that back. And we hear that Aes Sedai dispassionately talking about how to manipulate and maneuver the world around them. And I know that they are for the greater good. Even though they want to capture Rand and control him, they do want him to fight the final battle and to win, but they're so unlikable, it's crazy. Their level of dispassionate and disconnection from the world around them really makes it impossible to like many of the Aes Sedai for me personally. So my first prediction is we have an Aes Sedai called Alviren, I believe, Alviren, and I don't think we touched on her before, but she is of the White Aja, and she has a ton of the descriptions of her in the first couple of chapters really talk about her eyes. She's not fazed by anything, her eyes never change, and it was a lot of the same descriptions that Robert Jordan used for Lanfear when Lanfear had changed her appearance when she was dressed as a tinker, like in the back end of the last book. So I believe that this character is either Black Aja or potentially she's one of the Forsaken or the Chosen, as they would like to be taught to. So my first prediction is that she is a bad egg. She is maybe going to try and overthrow Aleida, but she's definitely going to try and manipulate things for the Dark Lord as a whole. I do not trust her in the slightest. Something else that happened in the White Tower is Padan Fain. So Padan Fain is in the White Tower. He clearly has some kind of relationship with Aleida, and that's dangerous because Aleida thinks that that relationship is going to give her the upper hand. But based on what we know about Padan Fain, no one is going to benefit from hanging out with him or any kind of deal with him other than Padan Fain. And I'm glad we got a bit of Padan Fain time already in this book because, as you've probably noticed from some of my previous videos, I find him a really interesting character. I want to know more about Morduth. I want to know more about what his capabilities are, why he's such a dangerous character, and even just the history of what happened in the city where he was trapped before he was allowed out. Now, something that is exciting is he noticed that the White Aja Aes Sedai kind of like, noticed him as well. There was a mention where their eyes locked and they kind of noticed each other. So that's what gave me the idea that, she was kind of evil as well. So I'm interested to see if those two face off at any point, because I do think Padan Fain will win that. I just think he's an awesome character. It's not that I like him, I just love to hate him, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that, but for me, he just is that character. Now, the Horn is in the White Tower. I believe the Horn is safe as long as Matt is still alive, because he blew it, and if I'm not mistaken, it means that no one else can blow it and have the same effect. It's just a regular horn for everybody until he dies. So I believe the Horn is safe. However, the dagger is there. And if Padan Fain gets his hands on it, I don't know the capabilities of the dagger, but I know that it's going to be bad news for everyone around him, because it does have extra capabilities. I remember he was able to do some crazy things, some powerful things when he did have it before, that got all of the Trollocs to follow him and the Midrils as well. So I'm really keeping an eye on that storyline. Main predictions for that area of the storyline is manipulation. I just think that there's so many people scheming in that area. You have obviously the Aes Sedai, who at heart are good and put Aleida on the throne. You have Aleida, who seems to have her own plans, if I'm honest. We have the White Aja Aes Sedai, who in my opinion, you know, is for the Dark One, either Black Aja or Forsaken. And then we have Padan Fain over there as well. And then not to mention, I think we still have over there Gawain as well. So I'm planning on, I predict that there's going to be a lot of manipulation, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of double crossing, and my money is going to be on Padan Fain coming out on top. Now, another thing that we saw was Samael, Ravin, Grendel, and Lanfear coming together to have kind of a meeting of the Forsaken. This is going to be really fun. If we thought that there was conniving, jostling for position and backstabbing in the White Tower storyline, this combination of people is going to be entirely political. Now, even in that meeting, they were all trying to figure out ways that they could potentially dead the other ones off without them even noticing, and that was in the first interaction. So I do believe that Lanfear is trying to double cross them. I believe that she is deeply in love with Rand and that she will follow through on that love. I do believe her, which is, you know, maybe to my own detriment. And Ravin seems to be our main villain this time around, and he has Morgase wrapped around his finger. So I think we're going to see a lot of Ravin. I do believe that Ravin will be double crossed by the end of this book, and I think that he's going to be the main focus. Like, all of our characters are going to end up in that city, which is Camelin, I believe, in the city with Morgase. And my prediction is that Morgase is already like trying to fight her compulsion, even if she doesn't understand it at all. She has there was a scene where she was in her bed chambers and essentially she was like, what was she worried about? Why does she feel strange? She doesn't even know she's under a compulsion, but she's kind of fighting it. So my big prediction is that Morgase is going to break free of that compulsion, and she is going to be instrumental in the death of Ravin. So then, to bring us over to the other main storyline, this storyline has dominated the first 150, 200 pages of this book, and it's Rand, Mat, Moiraine, the Aiel over there in the Wastelands. So one thing that I've really liked so far is that Asmodine, and Rand's kind of dynamic. Asmodine is obviously like a reluctant tutor, but it's clear that he's going to have to tutor and mentor Rand. And I like that dynamic a lot, because it's really strange. Like, he may be plotting, but he would have to plot in such a strange and underhanded way to be able to beat Rand, maybe teach him some magic that's too advanced for him or whatever. And I like how much he's managed to teach him already. So I don't believe that Asmodine makes it to the end of this book. No way, no how. But how does he depart is the question. But before we figure out how he's going to depart, there's two things that Rand has already learned. One he seemed to figure out on his own, and one was taught by Asmodine. I know Asmodine obviously taught him a lot more. I think, at least a couple of weeks have passed since the last book. But the first thing was skimming. I think skimming will make the world a lot smaller. And what I mean by that is, at Rand, and maybe others, I don't know if he can take anyone with him, will be able to travel much quicker throughout the world, which means that more is possible in a short period of time, which is exciting. But skimming will also make the world much bigger. And what I mean by that is, I don't know exactly how it works, but I've just been introduced to it, but it means that potentially he can go to places that are much further away quicker, which we already knew, which is going to make the world smaller. But I mean, also he may be able to go to places that he's never been to before, like across the sea to where the Seanchan are, or maybe beyond the waste to wherever the Aiel sell their slaves to. So it is really interesting, and I think skimming has been introduced as a tool to allow maybe things to speed up a little bit and to get a bit more aggressive. And what that means is like, I just think that there's so much more world that I haven't been introduced to. And I think in a couple of books time, my prediction is that I'm going to open up the book, and in the start, instead of there being the regular map, there's going to be like a whole humongous one, because I feel like there's more to this world. The second thing is he managed to learn how to use Balefire to destroy the Darkhounds, and it's an interesting concept. The concept is, I believe, is the harder it's used, that's not very good English. The longer it's used for, the more powerfully it is used to greater quantities, then it erases whatever it destroys, not just in that moment, but backwards in time as well. So what that does is, I feel like Jordan's flirted with time travel quite a lot. So it's clear that, you know, time repeats itself in the wheel and people come back. So time was always very relevant in this series, but also in the Terangriels as well. The ones that the Aes Sedai have to go through and the Wise Ones, it shows them like all the possibilities of their life and all different worlds as well. So we know there's different worlds, kind of like dimensions, I suppose. And now it's becoming apparent that we can meddle with time. And I think that's just going to make everything very convoluted and complicated moving forwards. But I think that that is a tool that Robert Jordan is slowly introducing right now. And I think that's going to be very prevalent, maybe not in this book, but throughout the course of the back end of this series, 100%. So when it comes to Rand, my big prediction is that, well, there's a lot when it comes to Rand, but I do think one thing that's going to happen is someone is going to discover Asmodine for being who he is, and that is going to cause Rand so many problems. The fact that he has a Forsaken teaching and training him. So I think that that's going to cause a big divide maybe in the Aiel, or it's going to be used maybe even further down the line once he's united everybody and shows, you know, a reason for there to be a schism or a chasm, a break in the people who's following him. And I can see that. I think people like Moiraine and Lan probably wouldn't even understand. Matt wouldn't understand. Like, no one would understand that except for Rand, because he's the only one who knows how difficult it is to try and learn to channel as a man. So a prediction is that that will be unveiled and it will cause endless problems for Rand. Now Rand is now getting real close with Avienda, the Maiden of the Spear, who's becoming a wise one now. And I actually kind of like her. She's a bit touchy, same as, you know, unfortunately they write all the women characters. Well, most of them, sorry, who are love interests. Jordan seems to write them as very nagging and angry, but outside of whenever she's having an interaction with Rand, I do really like her. And Rand now has like 4 or 5 different women who essentially are showing a bit of a love interest in him, and I think he's just going to end up having multiple wives like the Aiel do. I also think we might see a bit of a scrap between some of the women for his love, and one person that I can definitely see that happening for is Lanfear. Now Lanfear seems like a pretty cool character, but she's also definitely a little bit crazy and definitely very jealous. We already found out that she has a huge jealousy streak in her from the woman who tried to steal Lews Therin from her, and her name eludes me. It might be Elenia or something along those lines. But I think we're going to see a scrap for Rand's love at some point, and I think that would be really exciting. So at the point where I'm at in the book, at the end of chapter 7, moving into chapter 8, Couladin has taken half of the Isle and he's going to cross the Dragon Wall. And I suppose his goal really is just to conquer, pillage, and put the Aiel back where they belong. Now Rand obviously has to stop that happening. I don't see Couladin going out and starting wars and then him being able to come over the Dragon Wall and be like, hey, look, there's different types of Aiel, sorry. So I think that I think he needs to cut the head off, which is Couladin, and I think he just needs to do it with magic. So if I were him, I'd probably skim across to wherever Couladin is, if that's possible, and cut the head off and speak with the Aiel. That's the only like logical, quick answer that I can see. Now I don't know if he has wise ones with him or people who can do magic as well. So, you know, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the rest of that storyline. And one thing I did notice at the start of this book was Rand and Mat, they do seem much more grown up. Like their perspectives are a lot more adult, a lot more responsible, a lot more mature, and they seem to understand, listen, we're gonna have to go and get some stuff done. So it has been fun to see their development, and we're only on book 5 and the start of book 5, so I'm excited to see they're going to become amazing characters. Like I'm 100% certain of it. And that brings me on to Mat. Now, Mat is maybe my favorite character. Him, Tom Merrilin for like the fun factor, Padan Fain for that fun, crazy factor, and then obviously a big fan of Perrin as well. But Mat, I think he's being overshadowed right now, and that's normal because Rand is in his storyline. They're together in the story arc. I really want to see Mat break away from that and go and do something fantastic. Now, he's really set up to become, or even is, like an awesomely powerful character. First thing is the luck he has. That's incredible. You can't really beat that. It's such a wild card. The second thing is the medallion. Now, I predicted that based on his conversation through the Terangriel with the fox-like creatures, that he was no longer going to have magic be effective on him. Now, I didn't know the medallion was going to do that, but I do want to give myself a pat on the back for that. However, moving forwards, I need to see Matt on his own. I would like to see him go and essentially create his own arc and create his own storyline again to link up with them later. I do think that he's going to be intertwined with the Sean-chan somehow. We know he's going to marry someone of the Nine Moons court, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that's over in that direction. So I predict that Matt breaks from that group of people pretty soon because, yeah, I just want him to break free. Free Matt, let him shine. The last person I'm going to address in this video is Moiraine. Moiraine has become more and more human, and I love it. I think the less power that she has and the less like air of invincibility she has, the more likable she is. I do dislike how much everybody doesn't trust her. Like, Matt doesn't like her, Rand doesn't like her, Nynaeve hates her, and everyone just seems to be distrusting of her. And if the vibe I'm getting is like she's a mother figure, she does everything right, whom all their kids are at that like teenage stage and they don't understand how much she's loving them and how much she's helping them, and she's kind of getting a bit desperate because they're not normal teenagers, they're actually all people who are going to save the world and need a lot of guidance. So she took that oath to Rand, which was kind of out of the blue, and I just don't know how long she's going to be able to honor that for. So I think that what I would love to see, predicting moving forwards, is I'd love to see Moiraine find out that her childhood friend, you know, the previous Amyrlin seat has been stilled and dethroned, and I think we might finally see her lose some of her Aes Sedai cool and essentially just bring some anger, aggression, and probably balefire to the scene. I'd love to see her land in that White Tower storyline, and if there's anybody who can interrupt the scheming and powers of a Forsaken or a Black Aja or Padan Fain or you know, anyone in that direction, it's Moiraine. And I do really like her as a character, although we haven't seen a ton of development before this. Like, she's becoming more and more human, so I'd love to see her be told by Rand, listen, leave, because I think that's the only way she would leave, and go and deal with this White Tower situation and scenario. And I'd love to see a furious Moiraine over there. Another prediction is obviously Logain is going to become very important. He's going to have a crown on his head, and my first thoughts and instincts was that once Ravin has been defeated and Morghesi's been freed, I was thinking maybe Logain and Morghesi together. I don't know where that came from, but that was just a thought that I had. So finally, one thing I would like to see moving forwards is I would like to learn more about Lews Therin, and I would like to learn a bit more about all these people that Matt could remember as well. When they have these scenes where they just start talking, Matt in the old language, Rand, you know, as Lews Therin, like, it's really exciting, and I feel like it's like a whole new arc and whole new storyline that we get to learn as well. So although we have these characters and we've developed them and we know a lot about them, there is now a way for them to you know, be new characters again, and essentially we might get 2 or 3, you know, in Rand's case 2, but in Matt's case like 20 or 30 different storylines and adventures and memories in these 2 characters. So Robert Jordan is a genius. He's created so much potential, and that's probably why the series managed to go on for so long, is because of this revolving time and people coming back idea means that there's so much storyline you can get out of the characters he's already had, which is genius. And my final prediction is that, and I'm cheating a bit here, I know the next book, unless I'm mistaken, is called The Lord of Chaos. Who could that be other than the Dark One? And we saw that the seals, the 4 that are left over, are like chipping away, and they're not the powerful Sindilla, the powerful thing it's made of, doesn't seem to be indestructible anymore. So my prediction is that he will break out before the end of this book, which would like surprise me, but all the signs are pointing in that direction. If he breaks out so early, I don't see how we can have another like 9 books. So yeah, I kind of disagree with my own prediction, but that's what my gut says. Other than that, I'm going to continue reading. I'm so fired up for this book. It's really, really good. It's probably started better than any other book has, because it started with the characters in different locations, which is exciting. I am so excited to read more about Nynaeve. I'm so excited to read more about Perrin and all of the storylines that I haven't even touched on yet. So I suppose like, subscribe. I love hearing you guys' comments as well, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for your time.